If you are a returning viewer, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Amira, and today I am doing the first video of my collection kind of declutter video. I'm decluttering some things. I have more things to declutter in specific categories than I do in like my overall collection. So you will see me decluttering more in certain videos than you will in others. But I wanted to start off with my primers, concealers, and powders today because I don't feel like I have a ton of any of those. I mean, I have more than the average bear, that's for sure. But I don't have like booty guru levels of, primers and powders and concealers. I really do want to narrow down my primer collection because I don't really use primer anymore. I used to use primer a ton when I worked in an office environment. I work from home now, so I don't really bother with primer most days anymore. There's a couple of primers that I do really enjoy using that I probably will be keeping for those days when I'm out and about and I want my makeup to last a little bit longer. But other than that, I don't really need a whole wardrobe of primers. Concealers, I kind of already know what I'm getting rid of in the concealer category. The concealers that I'll be getting rid of will be, things that are not the best shades for me. And then I have a couple of other ones that I have issues with formula, and I will get into that in a mo. So let's get into it, and let's start off with Le Primer. All right. All right, I know I said I didn't have a lot of primer and then I proceeded to pull out a lot of primer. Okay, here's the thing. When I think primer, I'm not necessarily talking about like the things, I mean, even though they are technically primers, things like Hollywood Flawless Filter, but they go in that category, so I just decided to group them all together. But you'll see as I get into these what I mean when I'm talking about getting rid of primers specifically. So let's start off with the first one that is in front of me, and this is the Too Faced Primed and Peachy Cooling Matte Skin Perfecting Primer. This I have had a while. This is a newer one. I don't think I've even opened this yet. I don't think I've even used this yet. I originally was thinking I wanted to get rid of it because I haven't used it, but I kind of want to keep it now. Now that I'm sitting here, only because I love this range of products that Too Faced had. But even when I was using the foundation, I didn't really use this that much. It's a really good primer though. It's a really good, simple, matte primer. It's not too silicone-y feeling. I'm not a fan of that vibe. But you know what? I'm going to put this in the maybe because I can always decide at the end. I haven't decided only because it's unopened and I haven't used it yet. I'm like, I don't know. All right. Next up, we have the No Problem Touch and Soul Smooth and Pore Covering Top Secret for Perfect Makeup Primer. This is another one I've never used. And this one I'm actually going to get rid of because I don't really love pore filling primers. I find them to be, overall, they can over time make your makeup look quite greasy, at least on me. I will say for me, things that are really pore filling and have that kind of vibe to them don't really work well for me. So for this one, I think I'm going to say goodbye to this one, and because it's new, I can give it to someone and they'll get enjoyment out of it. So this is going in the bye-bye pile. And I have another primer that I forgot I had. I'm going to sit that right there. We can talk about that in a moment. Next up is the Smashbox Primer Water, Photo Finish Primer Water. I use this all the time, and I don't use this as a primer. I use this for my metallic eyeshadows. I love using this to wet my brush because what it does is it does the function of wetting the shadow to give it that foily vibe. But I also feel like because of the fact that it's a primer, it kind of helps it set nicely on the eye. And I just really love using this to wet my brushes. So usually if I'm doing metallics, I'll use this or I'll use a glitter glue, but this is the thing that I use the most in my collection when it comes to that type of thing. So this will definitely be staying. Next up is my favorite primer of all time, which is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. This isn't going anywhere. This, I said if I was going to keep a primer, you know, it was probably going to be one that I really liked. And this one I love to use for days when I'm out and about and I need my makeup to last. Haven't been doing a ton of that since the panorama, but it still comes in handy for that. Yeah, so this will be staying. Next up, we have the Coverflex. And this is how old this is. I found this and it has like dust on it. How sad is that? This is how little I've used this. This is the Coverflex Gripping Primer. I used to love this stuff, and so much so that I used it up and then I bought another one and then proceeded not to use it, and that's this one. I think I've used this maybe twice. I'm going to give this one away to someone because it's a great primer, but I'm just not using it. Same goes for my Faced Hangover primer. I used to use this when I used really matte foundations and I wanted something a bit hydrating on my skin. But I don't feel like I need that now because I have other things that I use that function in that way. So I'm going to give this one away as well. Next up, we have this little guy. This is a mini of the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. You can see I've gotten a decent amount of use out of this, but this, I haven't touched it in ages. Again, this is one of those primers where I feel like I said, I don't really love pore filling primers anymore. And this is basically how I used this one. I would just use it in my areas where my pores, and I do have to have large pores, but I will say that I've been on tretinoin for a while and my pores don't look as large as they used to. You can't shrink your pores. That's a myth. You can change the way that they look. And that's something that my tretinoin has done for me. And also I'm just not necessarily always looking for that super perfected base anymore. I'm not trying to look like I've been photoshopped, which I used to want to be like smooth as a baby's butt, you know, but now I'm just like, no, my skin, you know, I want it to look like skin. So I'm going to declutter this. I'm not going to give it away because I've used so much of it, but I will be decluttering it. Next up is this bad boy that I talked about when I talked about makeup disappointments that I have had. And this is one of them. Again, this is something that I love the way this looks under foundation, but I hate the way it feels on my skin. And it just makes me, gosh, I think I'm going to give it away. But I'm kind of sad about it to a certain extent because, again, I love the way it looks under makeup, but I hate the way it feels on my skin. And it's sort of like, do you want to be uncomfortable but have really great base, or do you have other things that you can maybe use in this place that can give you a great base, you know, like a great look under your foundation without having to feel like you have goop on your face. So I feel like I could probably find something either in my collection or maybe find something that's on the market that can replace this. But yeah, I think I'm gonna declutter this, which makes me a little bit sad, but what are you gonna do? Next up is this little Bee Milk. This is the primer stick. And again, I bought this a while ago. I used it like twice. I know this is supposed to be like a pore filling primer, but I just hate the feel of it. I hate the feel of it. Yeah, and it's got that silicone-y vibe, and I'm just not here for it. So this is going away. Next up is the Linda Hallberg, or I think it's now LH Cosmetics now, Infinity Glass Glow Primer. I like this. I don't use it very often, but I like it, and I don't actually use this as a primer. I use it as to make like glossy eyeshadow looks, like when you want that wet look on your eye. Or I use it on my lips when I want a really glossy lip. I've used this a couple of times in Instagram photos. So this, even though this is sort of a multi-function product, you can use it as a primer. You can use it on your face. You can use it on your eyes. You can use it on your lips. That's kind of the point of it. And I just think it's a really good like all-purpose product. So this will be staying in my collection. Next up, I have the Lineage Glowy Makeup Serum. I actually really like this stuff, and I think I'm going to try and finish it up this year. I'm not doing a project pan this year, but I think I'm going for it when I want to do like a glowier base. I've been forgetting to reach for this. So I want to start remembering to reach for it because I actually really love it. And what I like about it is that it gives the skin a really healthy, plump look without any kind of sparkle or shimmer or glitter. It's just really just like natural glow. It's really pretty. So this will be staying. Next up is the Nars Tinted Glow Booster in shade Medium Dark Tangsy. I'm keeping this. I like this. I've used it. I used it a lot this summer. It's not the most like in comparison to Hollywood Flawless Filter, it's not going to give you that super glowy vibe. It just gives a subtle sheer kind of, and I don't even know if it picks up on camera. Like that's how subtle it is. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that you can kind of throw that on. You can put it on over makeup or under makeup. It works both ways. Wiping my hand off here. And I'm keeping that. Next up is the Hollywood Flawless Filter. Excuse me. And I have a little mini. I had been wanting to try this for years. I just couldn't bring myself to spend $44 on it. And honestly, I'm glad that I didn't. I waited till they had minis of it because I think I would have been upset of spending $44 on that. Not because it's a bad product. It's just not a product that I've found since I bought this and I've reached for a ton. I like it. Whenever I use it, I enjoy it. I've been really liking it. And this is tan. They don't have the other shade, the shade that's the shade one shade up, which is closer to my skin tone in a mini. They just have this one. But this one still works for me. It's kind of like a highlighting shade. And I enjoy that. I usually use this with stuff that I don't necessarily put it under my makeup. I put it like as a highlighter. And I like it. Yeah, but I'm glad I don't own the huge bottle because I don't think I would have been able to use that up. And I don't think I would have been happy spending that much for something that I don't use that often. But I'm still keeping this because I enjoy using it. All right, so let's now get into concealers. Ta-da! All of my concealers. So, yeah. Let's start off with the ones I know for a fact I'm getting rid of. I am getting rid of the Lancome Tinted in the shade Disc W. I've talked about this in my Makeup Fails video that the shade range for this is terrible. This is orange as hell on me. Let me wipe my hand so I can get this Hollywood Flawless filter off so I can show you guys. It's just the shade above it, the shade below it is too light and the shade above it is too dark, and this shade is just orange. You see that? Just orange. So yeah, I would love to try this. I hear so many good things about the formula, but the shade range is not the biz for me. So this is going to go away. Next up, I have this is one of probably my newest concealer. And this I had a really hard time with too. I returned one shade that was way too dark for me and I exchanged it for this one. And now this one feels way too orange as well. So I'm like, well, damn, you see what I mean? Like, look at that. I'm kind of bummed, guys. I really want to try this, but I just feel like the shade is wrong. But I kind of want to see if I can get some kind of use out of it, just so I can get a feel for if it's worth me picking up another shade, like a better shade. So this is going to stay for now, but I don't know if it's going to stay in the long haul, but it'll stay for now. Next up is this Too Faced Peach Perfect concealer in the shade Cashmere. And this was just a boo-boo on my part. This was just like the wrong shade. This is so light. It's so light. Look at this. I don't know what I was thinking. I got my piece of cat hair in my hand. I don't know what I was thinking. Look at that. Look at that. Well, like, really, Amir? Really? That's crazy looking. But it smells like peaches. So yeah, this is gonna go. It was just a fail on my part. I have used this as an eyeshadow primer, and it actually, because it's matte, it dries down, and it actually works pretty well. And I could keep it for that, but I'm kind of moving away from like those like super creamy kind of like paint pot type things because they just don't seem to work for my eyes, you know? So this is gonna go away. And then I have these three the ordinary. I bought these and then proceeded to not use them. And so last month I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing my declutter soon, so I need to give these a go. You have to excuse me, I have glitter all over my hand because that rag had glitter all over it. Yeah, so this is one shade, and I'm going to swatch all three of these for you so you can see what I mean. And then I'm going to talk about why I'm getting rid of all three of them. So this is shade 2.1Y, and this is actually the shade that I wear in the foundation, the Serum foundation. Now that looks quite light, doesn't it? It oxidizes, so it's going to get a little bit darker than that. But the actual foundation shade of that is a little bit more, less yellow, less orangey yellow, even though it is a yellow shade. This is 2.1 pink, and it's basically the same shade. Why is this not closing? This is basically the same shade. I can't talk. Same shade, but just lighter, just more on a pink. So, but did you see right there? Did you see how much that deepened? Crazy, right? And then this one here is 2.3Y, and this one's just flat out too dark for me. It doesn't look like it here, but you'll see what I mean as I swatch them out and they get darker. So right now that one looks lighter than the one that's gotten darker, but it will darken up considerably. Now, I have used this one, the 2.1Y, and I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was a nice formula. And I know that these kind of got like mixed reviews. I wasn't mad at this. I was able to make it work. Even though it oxidizes, it didn't look terrible on my skin. However, I was using this for a good week, just testing it out, see if I was going to keep it. I knew I wasn't keeping these two because the shades are just not right. But I started to get little bumps, like pimples, like whiteheads. Wherever I placed this, I had used it on my forehead, I had used it around my mouth, I had used it under my eyes, and I had gotten actual whiteheads. And I could, at first, I was using two concealers at the same time. Like I was flipping between two. I was using two on my face at the same time because I was testing two concealers at that time. And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out which one it was. But then I thought about it and I'm like, well, which one did you use all over your face? Like which multiple areas as opposed to just your under eyes? And it was this one. And this one, guys, I think I'm gonna have to get rid of it. It broke me out. Not think I'm gonna have to get rid of it. I am gonna get rid of it because it broke me out. I think the formula is lovely. If you don't have issues with, you know, I don't know if it will break everyone out, but it broke me out. I didn't hate the formula, but I have to get rid of it because my skin and this concealer did not get along. So disco bye-bye. Next up is the concealer that I was using that I had just gotten that I thought was also breaking me out because I was using it at the same time. So let me wipe my hand off again. This is my Kosas. What is this called? I don't even know. It's the Kosas concealer, guys. I don't know what the full name is. I got this because everyone was raving about it, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. The shade range is kind of trash as far as undertones go. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. It's a little bit... I don't like super heavy coverage concealers, but I feel like this one is almost too light in coverage. Like when I use it, I feel like I need to keep putting more. Like it doesn't cover the way I give coverage the way I would want. Again, I want to keep using this. I want to try and test it some more, maybe use it with other foundations. I'm just a bit on the fence with it as of now. So I'm going to keep it for now, but yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. Next up is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, and I got this for my Full Face of e.l.f. Cosmetics video, and I really liked this when I was using it, and I had used this for a good week and a half. I haven't used it since, not because I dislike it, I just have been using other things, but I think I'm going to keep this because I enjoyed it when I used it. It does give really good coverage, but it also doesn't look dry on the skin. Maybe about an hour, my battery died. So let's get back into it. I left off with my concealers. So next up is the Shiseido, I guess it's, what do they call this? The Synchro, this has way too long of a name. The Synchro Skin Refreshing Concealer. I have the foundation of this concealer, the companion to this concealer, which I did not like. But the concealer is actually really, really nice. It's one of my faves in my collection, so this is definitely staying. And I have this in the shade 303 medium. It's so tiny. All right, next up is the Stellar Concealer in 505. Now this I've held on to, but it's actually quite dark. But it's interesting, like it's kind of too dark for me, but I like the neutral tone of it. And I've used it and it actually kind of works. So I do hold on to this. The foundation version, the foundation that goes with this concealer is probably my favorite foundation that I've ever used. So yeah, I don't use this as much as I probably could because of the shade not being perfect. I tend to like to use this with foundations that are maybe a little too light to kind of even them out. But yeah, as a result, because of the shade not being like exactly what I would need, I don't use this as much, but I am keeping it because it's actually a really decent concealer. The foundation is better, but the concealer is good. I'll wipe off my hand here again. All right, and then this guy, I think I've shown you guys, this was in my empties, and I held on to it because I thought maybe there's a little bit more in here, but I'm actually gonna just toss this because it's pretty much done. But this is the Coverflex Power Play Concealer, and this was my favorite concealer for a really long time. It was a recommendation from someone on YouTube that I was talking to in a live stream, and they recommended this concealer. I bought it. They were absolutely right. The Coverflex Power Play foundation used to be one of my favorite foundations. I still own it, but back when I was really into matte foundations, that was one of my faves. And what I like about the concealer is I was worried that it was going to be too matte because the foundation is so matte, but this is actually quite nice. It's kind of a natural finish, which I think is a great companion with the super matte foundation. But yes, this was a really great concealer. I've used it up. I probably won't be purchasing it again, but because I have a ton of concealers, I don't really need to repurchase this. But yeah, this was a good one. It will now go into the land of recycling. Next up is the Fenty Bright Fix in Peach. I got this as a color corrector because that's essentially what this is. It's not a traditional concealer. It's meant to be a sort of like a color corrector. And I got the peach to kind of help with any like darkness that I have around my eyes. I don't have really bad dark circles or anything, but I have a little bit of shadow like in the inner corner of my eyes that I like to sort of even out. This, I need to use it more. The first few times I've used it, I've been kind of meh about it. It's very, very thin and sheer in coverage. So for me, being color correcting, I still feel like I can see the darkness peeping through, and I don't want to, and I've noticed that when I try to pack this on, it doesn't sit very well on my skin. So I just need to play with this a little bit more. I'm not going to get rid of it because it is relatively new to my collection, and I just want to play with it a little bit more. Last time I used it, I layered it with one of my concealers. I think I actually layered it with the Coverflex one, and it actually looks nice. So yeah, I just want to get some more use out of this and then can make a decision on whether or not it is worth keeping. Next up is a mini of the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. I love this concealer. This is the first concealer. I used to be very not a concealer girl. Like I just didn't wear concealer. I would just bring my foundation all the way up under my eye because I couldn't find concealers that I liked. And that was mostly because at the time, that was just when I was getting into makeup and I was using a lot of drugstore concealers. And those were just have never been the best for me. Like I have yet to find a drugstore concealer that I truly love. So I wound up buying a mini of this concealer in the shade Caramel, I believe. And I loved it. And so I got another one, but I got the shade Sucre d'Orge, I think is how you pronounce it. This shade is a bit orange on me. It's a little too peachy, but it works well as like a layering concealer. So I haven't gotten rid of it. And also, I feel like similar to this, the shades are very similar. So I feel like I have to decide what I want. Do I want a lighter coverage color corrector or a fuller coverage color corrector? I might even mix the two and see if I can get some use out of them that way, because that's basically how I've been using this one as a color corrector. Next up is my full-size NARS Radiant Creamy, and this is in the shade yeah, Caramel, which is the one I have the mini in. And this shade is a little dark, but for some reason, I don't know what it is about the undertone of this particular shade. And let me just preface this by saying I don't like super light concealers. I'm not someone who highlights under my eyes a lot. I don't like that super light look under my eyes. I like a little bit of brightening, but I tend to like it to just sort of even things out and make things look smooth and consistent as far as tone goes. But I'm not looking to have a super bright under eye. So this is Caramel, and as you can see, it's actually darker than Sucre Dolce, but this color works better for me because it has a little bit of golden neutral tone to it. And even though this is a little dark, it actually looks really good on my skin. And I like to use it as sort of like a spot concealer as well. But yeah, this is a really lovely concealer, and right now I'm working on other concealers, so I haven't used this as much as I used to, but I'm holding on to this because I really enjoy it. Next up, I have two Pat McGrath concealers, and I have shade M15, which is the one that I use all the time. This is what I'm currently sort of not panning, but I'm just getting some use out of this. And then I have M17. Now M17, a little dryness there. M17 is not, oh wow, it's not like the best shade, but it's not the worst shade. As you can see, it's actually lighter than Caramel, but I'm gonna swatch it next to what I use on my face. So, like I said, I don't like super bright concealers, and I don't feel like this is too bright for me. It just gives my skin a little bit of warmth, but it's not actually that light on my skin tone. And I actually use the same shade for the foundation. So oftentimes I use the two together and I just give a nice even tone. M17 actually isn't that bad either. The M17 of the foundation I feel like is a tad darker than this, which was the first shade that I ever purchased. And at the time, it worked for me. I will say that I feel like my skin tone has changed a bit since lockdown. It's a little bit, I'm still sort of figuring out what are some of the best undertones for me, because my skin has gotten just a tad, I want to say lighter, but yeah, it's gotten just a tad lighter. And so, and just because I'm not getting any sun, you know, my undertones are the same, but it's just trying to figure out like where in the realm of what the shades that I have in my collection and what my skin tone, my skin shade is now. So yeah, M17, as you can see, it dries down a little bit darker, but the foundation was way too dark for me. So I wound up buying the M15 shade in the foundation. But yeah, this is what I usually wear, is this shade here in the Pat McGrath. Of course, I'm keeping both of these. They're great. This one I can work with. This is one of my favorite concealers in my collection, so it's definitely staying. All right, so my powder collection. I have some powders in here that I just don't use, and then I have powders in here that I use all the time. So it's kind of one or the other, honestly. First up, let's just do this bad boy, which is my Pat McGrath powder that I love. And I realized recently that it's almost empty. There's not a lot left in this. I might finish it up this year because it's just a little bit left. But then I'm like, well, damn, then I'm gonna have to replace it because I love it so much. And it's an expensive powder. So yeah, love this powder. Gonna continue using it. I'm gonna stay in my collection. Next up is the Dermablend, and I have, this is like powder all over. I have the Dermablend Illuminating Banana Powder. Yeah. That's a mess. I don't know why it's so like all over the place, but yeah, I like this powder. It's not like my fave. This is my second time trying this. I purchased it some years ago, finished it, and then bought this one. So I liked it enough to repurchase it, and I think it's a good powder. I don't reach for it as much now, right now, but what tends to happen with me with powders is that I will take a powder and I will just use it until it's done, and then I'll move on to another powder. So I just finished my Too Faced Peach Perfect setting powder. and then I've moved on to this one. So I'll probably finish this one up and then maybe move on to this one. But I'm keeping this. Next up is the Halo Glow Setting Powder, and I purchased this for my e.l.f. Full Face of e.l.f. Cosmetics video. And guys, I've been using this like every single day. Like, I was originally using my Pat McGrath, and I love my Pat McGrath. That, like, I'm not even comparing the two. They're very different. But I actually stopped using this, and I've been using this a lot because it gives this just lovely, it's like glowy without being shimmery or glittery. It just gives a nice subtle glow to the skin, and I've really been liking that. So yes, this is staying, and I enjoy it. This was like one of the things that I've liked the most of the products I tried in that video. Next up is the amazing NYX Hourglass finishing powder, and this is in the shade medium. I was first turned on to this by Angelica Nickfist. She raved about this powder and how amazing it was as a finishing powder. So I bought it. She was right. It's amazing. I love it. I believe these are being discontinued, but I believe you can still find them on sale on the, I think they're on sale. I don't know if they're still on sale. They kind of go on and off sale on Ulta, but I believe Ulta still has these. And I think NYX might have the highlighter. If you're looking for this, do not get the highlighter, get the finishing powder, because this is the one that both Angelica and I are referencing when we talk about how great the powders are. It's this. It's beautiful. It's just like, I mean, it's a powder, so, but if you can see that subtle glow that it gives the skin, I don't know if you can see that, but it's just so pretty. And I just like to take this and buff it all over my skin. I don't use this all the time, but when I do, I always get compliments on my makeup when I use this. It's a beautiful powder, so this is definitely staying. Next up is the Pat McGrath Blurring Under Eye Powder. I'm gonna keep this. It's not like my most fave thing in the world. I actually don't really like specifically powdering under my eyes. I might lightly dust a little powder when I'm powdering my whole face, but I don't set my under eyes. I don't like the way powder really looks under my eyes. It makes my eyes look crepey when they're not crepey, and I'm not about that life. But having said that, this powder is lovely, and it does have a really nice blurring, subtle blurring effect. It's not it's very finely milled and silky, and it has like that a beautiful sheen, natural sheen to it. So I actually like this for like my pores. Like, instead of using a pore filling primer, I like to use this because it does give that really soft, subtle blur without it looking, without getting shiny towards the middle of the day, which often happens to me with pore filling primers. This is really nice. I use it for that. I don't use it a ton, but I use it for that, and I do think it's a really good powder, so I will be keeping that as well. And we have Hourglass. What can I say about Hourglass? I don't purchase from Hourglass anymore. I'm not a fan of their lack of inclusivity and their sort of complete and utter, how do I put it? Their unwillingness to be more inclusive. However, before, when I was still giving them a chance, I was a huge fan of this powder, and I actually forgot I had this mini because I had shoved it in a drawer. I have a couple of places that I have powder, and I put this in one of my drawers, and I completely forgotten I had it. I do love this powder. This is a beautiful, beautiful powder. It's a good quality powder. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to finish it at some point. I might, once I finish up the Pat McGrath, I might dig into this just so I can finish it up. It's a mini. I've used one of these before. This is like the second or third one of these that I purchased, and I've finished one of these up. Two of these up, actually. So it's not hard for me to pan this if I wanted to. So I might put this next in line with my powders, but we'll see. I'm going to keep it though, because I do enjoy it, and I did pay for it, and it's brand new. It's full. All right. Next up is the Urban Decay powder all over. This is the Urban Decay Wear Powder Foundation. The Stay Naked, the Fix powder foundation. I have the liquid version of this foundation, and I love it. And then a couple of people on YouTube were talking about how they love this to set with, and that it's really good if you're using like a sheer foundation and you want a little bit more coverage. I just don't use this right now, and I don't know if I'm going to use it. Like, I've tried it a few times. It's fine. I don't hate it. I just don't think I've used it enough to like form an opinion about it. And so for that reason, I kind of want to keep it just to see. I think what I'll do is hold on to it for now. And if I haven't used it, you know, by the time of my next declutter, you know, then I'll get rid of it. Next up, I have the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural and Medium Tan. Now, I purchased this before I purchased the NYX one, and they were purchased within the same like time frame. So I actually didn't get a lot of use out of this because I immediately started using the NYX one, excuse me. And so I don't really have a lot of feelings about this one way or the other, because I hadn't formed an opinion of it yet. I do want to keep it though, because it's a really, really pretty powder. And again, I want to just get some use out of the powders that I have. And I think by keeping powders that I own, I won't be purchasing any for a while, you know? So that's a keep. This is a definite keep for a multitude of reasons. One, this is Chantecaille. It's hella expensive. I haven't used it. I mean, I've used it, but I mean, I'll open it up so you guys can see what I mean when I say used. Like, I've used it. I've cracked it a little bit. So it's definitely hot and used, but it's one of those baked formulas. So it's like, it takes a while for you to see any kind of dent in it. The thing is, this is the thing about this powder. I kind of wish I'd waited to purchase it. I'd seen so many people rave about it, and I kind of wish I'd waited because they then came out with a medium shade. And that one would work better for my skin tone. This one is not too bad. It's light, but it's sheer enough that when I blend it out, it's not horrible. So I think I'm going to keep it, but I think what I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the NYX one or the Urban Decay one. I'm going to see if I don't use it, I might declutter it and just purchase the shade that I want. But it's just, this was so expensive. First of all, it's beautiful, but it was so expensive. And I'm like, no, I want to get some use out of it. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to put this in if it's not used by the next declutter, then it's probably time to get rid of it. And then finally, I have two powders here. This is the Too Faced Peach Blur Translucent Smoothing Finishing Powder. Look at this powder. Like, who is this finishing? I bought this because I love this line, and I was like, well, let me try it. It still vaguely smells of peaches. It's not super strong, but it's still there. This is a lovely powder in the sense that the finish of it is lovely, but the color is just weird. It's so peachy. Like, I just like, who's finishing their makeup with something that's peach, you know? So I'm thinking, even though I haven't gotten a lot of use out of it, this undertone is just weird. So I think I'm just going to declutter this one. And next up lastly, I have, this is a mini of the Glowish Soft Radiance Bronzing Powder in medium. And as you can see, it's like, I dropped it and it kind of fell out all in one piece. So that's good, I guess. This powder is weird. It's supposed to be a bronzing powder, and maybe the shade is wrong. The other shade up was too dark for me, so I got this one. And it's supposed to have a radiance to it, but it's just flat. Like, most of the pigment is on my hand. You see that? Like, it's on my finger. It's not on my skin. It's just a weird powder. I don't understand. This whole range just is very puzzling to me. Like, I've seen so many people review this Glowish line, and it just feels strange to me. Like, certain things are too glowy, more glowy than they should be. Other things that are supposed to be glowy or should be glowy aren't glowy enough. This just feels honestly like a translucent setting powder. Like, there's not a lot, even for someone lighter than me, this wouldn't have a lot of pigment in it. It's just a weird ass powder, guys. And I'm just like, nah, I'm good. So I'm just going to declutter that. All right, so let's look at what I'm getting rid of. All right, so this is what I'm getting rid of. This little item here, I've decided I am going to go ahead and get rid of as well. I'm just going to give this away to a friend or something. But yeah, so this is what I'm getting rid of. I've decluttered 14 items. not too shabby. I don't think that's too shabby. Yeah. And I've got space now in my little concealer drawer. That's lovely. Look at that. Yay. So yeah, that's what I'm getting rid of. I will see you guys, I guess, in my next declutter. We're gonna go full steam ahead. I've got a lot to get through, guys. I've got a lot to get through. I think next I'm probably going to do my eyeliners and mascaras, maybe. I'm gonna leave foundation probably second to last, only because I'm gonna do a ranking video of all my foundations. So I kind of want to get that filmed first before I declutter any, you know, potentially declutter anything. So yeah, that is it for today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. And bye bye.